So I got 4 ideas for ways we could solve homelessness. Here's 4 ideas for ways Americans can solve homelessness. We got 330 million Americans, and we have 500,000 homeless, 500,000 homeless, which is to say that we can solve this. It's solvable with $5 billion. Just so the first one is get America, the United States government. We got billions and billions and billions of dollars for every goddamn thing else, but we don't seem to have a couple $1 billion for houses. Just get a couple $1 billion from the American government and to build 500,000 houses somewhere in Utah. Get some sort of skyscraper, spread it all over the place. Who gives a shit? You got all that national forest. So get a couple $1 billion. I think $500 billion, $10,000 homes for 500,000 people is $5 billion. Right? That solves homelessness. They didn't have a house and now they have a house. That's if we were Christians. That's if we gave a shit. That's if we were like, hey, here's a problem and we're going to solve the problem. Now, if I'm the president, because I know that I give a damn, if I'm the president, there's 3 other ways that we could solve homelessness too. The first way is to shut down all the churches and the synagogues and the mosque, because the religious people aren't doing shit to help the poor and the homelessness. No fucking reason we should have homelessness all over the goddamn motherfucking place. No fucking way. Richest nation, most powerful nation in the goddamn motherfucking world. And we can't put a couple sticks together for these 500,000 people. It's not even like we got tens and, 20 of millions of people. It's 500,000 people. Shut down the churches, shut down the synagogues, shut down the mosque, and immediately move the homeless into the churches. We also have 20 empty houses per homeless person. So if I'm the president and I'm issuing executive orders, I would just get the $5 billion passed. But while we're working on building those 500,000 houses in the middle of the desert somewhere, or some skyscraper in the middle of Utah, the homeless people need a place to live right now. You heard that guy that was screaming out in the cold? Screaming. Is that what people have to do in America in order to get somebody to give a goddamn flying fuck? Wait until you're about 1 inch away from goddamn death and scream out into the middle of the fucking night and hope that some beautiful black angel will hear you? Is that the only way to survive in America? There was that one frozen. 102 homeless people were killed while homeless. Died while homeless in Colorado Springs. That's on top of the homicide rate, which is through the roof. Somebody froze out. Somebody was frozen, stayed outside and froze to death. And people were making fun of, I guess, the rigor mortis. How silly the person must have looked, just sitting there in the cold, frozen to death. Wasn't that Wounded Knee, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee? When there was that, where was that with all the dead Native Americans in the cold and the snow? So shut down the churches, synagogues, and mosques. Immediately move in homeless people into those places. This is temporary measures, but, they are going to freeze to death and they're going to die. And the churches and synagogues and mosques, they haven't solved the problem of homelessness. They don't seem to think it's a priority. People are freezing to death out in this world, and, well, hell, the damn Nazis need to fucking laugh at the poor frozen bastards because they don't have a soul. And that's what they live for. Laughing at some poor homeless person frozen to death. For every homeless person, we have 20 empty houses. Move the homeless people. If we still have them after we've used the churches and synagogues and mosques and we still don't have enough room, then we're going to open up the 20 houses. We have 20 empty houses per homeless person. We're going to protect the capitalist bankers, absentee landlords. Some asshole bought a house and then left it to just sit there and rot. We need to have a social use. Putting a homeless person who wants to be into a house that that house needs to be loved, and that homeless person needs to be loved. They can love each other, love themselves back to life. You don't even need to be involved at all. There's a little tiny home for you, sir. Good luck to you. Now at least you have the bare essentials: food, water, clothing, housing, shit. How the fuck was he going to survive on the street, frozen to death? I guess he's not going to update his resume. I guess it's not going to be no LinkedIn request, no TikTok invite for him. Move 500,000 people out of their houses. So, and make sure they're all registered to vote too. That was also, it's a political thing, right? So make sure that every American, if you're a citizen, you're born in this country, especially if you're a veteran of this country, that you have a place to live. Christianity, I don't think, gives a fuck about anybody. I think religion is just to bow down to a bunch of priests. It's supposed to be for control or goodness, but it's not for either one of those. I think it's just for white women to go around abusing kids, to abuse kids sexually, to abuse kids physically. The Catholics are notorious when it comes to child abuse in every which way. 20 houses, open up 20 houses. The damn churches, the Christians, religion has failed. Shut up and obey the authority figures. What about the authority of your heart, the authority of your conscience? What about the authority of that person needs to motherfucking live? And the fact that they're so passive or sweet or kind enough that they won't even bother you. They'll just lay off into the snow over there and die. So that way you can laugh at their rigor mortis, their frozen, their terrified faces. And that'll solve homelessness. And for a moment, we could say homelessness was actually solved. While we're building all the houses for the 500,000 people, we got all the homeless people into the churches, synagogues, and mosques. And then, actually, let's count them. Let's have like a census, just to get a sense of, what we're actually dealing with. You have everybody kicking the can down the road because, California says if we take care of the homeless, they'll all come here. Nevada says the same thing. Oregon says the same thing. So, ultimately, nobody does a goddamn flying fucking thing about the homeless because it's a national problem. But if the U.S. government does it, shut down the churches, synagogues, and mosques, fill them up with the homeless, fill all the empty houses up with the homeless, and I think that should take care of it, frankly. But just in case we don't have enough empty houses and empty churches, then just move 500,000 people out of their houses. Especially the ones that don't vote. The ones that don't vote and the ones, clearly this society isn't taking care of the least vulnerable. So move 500,000 of the people out of their houses, probably the criminals, right? Get the criminal, the lowlife, the racist, the ones with the Confederate flags on their... It's a nation of fucking psychopaths, a nation of abundant psychopaths, rich, wealthy fuckers who pretend to believe in Jesus and God and pretends that they're good, but really ultimately just wants to beat up children, wants to abuse kids, and then walk past homeless people. There was a black guy that had got shot and killed in the... Remember the mother saying how much that she loved him and saying that he would always try to give money to the homeless, and I wonder if he was trying to do that to get his mother's love. And it's almost like, you don't have to save the world, you don't have to save all the homeless people, son. Just be good to me. That would solve homelessness. That would solve homelessness, and maybe the moving 500,000 Americans out of their homes might not be. But why are you entitled to a house and they are not? How many people go to bed on not just nice houses, but like silk blankets and wake up sweating? They're too hot. Like Dumb and Dumber, they got an extra pair of gloves. Oh man. Your hands are cold? Here, take my extra pair of gloves because my hands are sweating. So those are 4 ideas that would solve homelessness if we had a president or governor or mayor that was being serious about it. And you could just do that in a smaller context, in a small town, right? You got church, synagogue, or mosque. You got empty houses. Put the homeless people in there while we're building houses. And if, why would people not like that? Why would people not like that? If the whole nation is involved with it, the whole nation is helping out, everybody could do their damn part. And I bet you the homeless people would be nicer, friendlier. They would be loyal voters. They would vote for you forever. Get their families to vote for them forever if they have families. I mean, you saved their life. You're a liberator. You're like Abraham Lincoln.